Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Wreck and Rule, where we focus on the upcoming Transformers trading card game by Wizards of the Coast. This will be coming out officially on September 28th. If you're lucky and already have a copy from someone at Gen Con, you already have some games in. Today, we want to focus specifically on the offensive upgrades and actions that you get in the Autobot starter. Now, we've already seen a lot of other cards spoiled by the WotC staff on the Transformers Trading Card Game Facebook group, which you should join if you're not already in there. We're going to focus today specifically on the ones in the starter for a couple of reasons. So one, unless you're proxying cards, these are the only cards that you can use right now. And then two, hopefully, your friendly local gaming store is going to be running an event for that release weekend. So the way that we're doing this at the store where I play, which is All the Kingsmen in Pitman, New Jersey, is that you're going to buy 6-packs. And then if you don't have the Autobot starter, you buy that too. If you already have it, then you don't have to worry about it. But you bring that starter with you. And what's going to happen is you're going to build a team using the characters from the Autobot starter along with the characters that you pull from those 6-packs that you get with the event. And then you're going to also build your battle deck using the cards that you get both from the starter and then from those 6-packs as well. So we're focusing on the offensive cards in that starter because you're going to reliably have 2 of each of them. In addition to that, almost all of these cards are commons, and the ones that aren't, for the most part, are going to be uncommons, which means that there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to draw an additional copy, which means that you could have a full playset of 3 cards in that deck. Again, I encourage you guys, if you are not in the Facebook group, definitely join it. We'll have a link in the video description down bottom. We have the staff of Wizards of the Coast are there. They're spoiling cards. They're answering questions. People are talking about deck ideas. It's a great place to kind of get some info on the game and just kind of share in the hype that we are all feeling. So let's get into these cards that we get in the Autobot starter. Probably the biggest and the baddest is the grenade launcher. So the grenade launcher's ability is that when the upgraded character attacks, you scrap the card. So it's a one-time use only card. But it does have a powerful effect in that you are adding 4 to the attack that you are doing. The other good news is that it also does have that 1 orange pip up top. So if you're attacking and you flip this card over, you're doing you're adding to your attack value there. This is great in a couple of different situations. So let's say if you're attacking a character that has either no damage or has very little damage, this allows you to quickly put out a lot of damage in one shot. So if you're running, let's say, Red Alert, who has that 5 attack value in robot mode, you're adding 4 to it, you're attacking with 9 before you start flipping cards over, which is pretty good. That could potentially one-shot some of the weaker characters out there. And then even for the stronger characters, it could set up another of your team members to take it down in attacks that come later. This is one that if you get that 3rd copy, chances are that you probably want to put it into your deck. This is most likely going to be a staple card that we'll probably see in most decks, especially ones that are focusing on attacking, unless we get some really, really bonkers cards that get revealed. Or if we get some cards that are focused on certain synergies, whether they're Dinobots or whether they're Insecticons or trucks or jets or what have you. The second card, before we move away from this card here, this is also great to put onto a weaker character. Let's say maybe Ironhide from the Autobot starter set. Ironhide does not have a great attack value. But, this can kind of come out of nowhere, make that low, maybe 3 attack value, all of a sudden become 7 attack. That 7 attack could finish off a character, or again could set you up to finish somebody off later on. So grenade launcher in general, just a great card to have out there. The second card that you're going to see that's almost always going to be good is going to be this primary laser. So primary laser, no special abilities here. All it does is add that static +2 to your attack. And that's a good, solid additional value. Having that kind of built-in +2 is really strong, especially if while you're attacking you flip over into some more oranges or you flip over into a white and you get to flip more cards over. The other good thing about primary laser is that if you are defending and you flip this card out there, it will add to your defense value. So there are some cases where you want to focus, either really heavy on defense or really heavy on offense. This is going to help you do both, and it's solid both ways. Primary laser, even though it doesn't have any exciting abilities, is going to also be a pretty solid card to put into your deck, especially in that starter environment or that starter plus, only a couple of packs, or if you do set up a draft event, this is a good card to have out there. Next card, is going to be Flamethrower. So Flamethrower, the ability it has here is the keyword is bold 2, which means that when you attack, you flip over 2 more battle cards. Usually you only flip over 2. In this case, you'd be flipping over 4, unless you have, the character has bold as part of their built-in abilities. Thinking about the starter prime and robot mode has bold 1, now he's got bold 3. So you flip over 3 cards. If you get lucky, one of those 3 cards has a white pip, you flip over 2 more. So Flamethrower is a little bit more situational. I like to put this card onto a character that already has bold. So in that starter environment, you're looking at, Prime from the Autobot starter. And really, he's the one I really like to put this onto. It's very situational. The other circumstance where this is also strong is if you have a deck that's heavily focused on orange pips, because that means that you're more likely to draw into them. Now, if you don't have that, or if you have a deck that's focusing more on defense, then you might want to focus a little bit more on other weapons. This might not be something you put 2 of in there, maybe not even 1 of. This one's a little more situational. It can be really powerful, but it can also totally whiff. Next up, I'm going to take a look at Piercing Blaster. So Piercing Blaster, the keyword it has is Pierce 3, which means that when you attack, you're going to do at least 3 damage, no matter what, as long as you have at least 3 for your attack value on your character, along with any other upgrades that might add attack. This is pretty good on characters that you're not trying to be like a powerhouse with. I'm thinking about Ironhide from the starter. His attack value, not very great. And you want to generally keep him in his truck mode if at all possible, because he's got that higher defense value. You're hoping that he can kind of get those blue pips, hoping that he can not take much damage. Throw this blaster onto Ironhide, and then when he attacks, he's putting out that steady, constant, reliable 3 damage. This is also great in a situation where, you're attacking a character and it only has 3 damage, 2 damage, or 1 damage left on it. You know that you're going to kill it. You know that it doesn't really matter what they flip into when they defend. You're going to be okay. The other upside to this is it's got that white pip up over here, which means that if you see it while you're attacking or you're defending and you flip into it, you get to flip over 2 more cards. The other thing to note about this card is that almost every character that we've seen so far has an attack value of at least 3. So far, the only exceptions to that we've seen spoiled are characters like Cosmos and like RC, who very definitely have some cool tricks to them. But, this is going to give you that reliable 3 damage on any other character that you have. With that said, this might not be one that you put 3 of into your deck. If you have characters that have really high attack value and you're focusing on that, they already have, say, 5 or 6 attack built in, you might not want to put in Piercing Blaster at all, depending on the situation. In that starter plus 6 packs environment, though, this is a pretty solid addition for those moments where you only have to do a little bit more damage to wipe that opposing character off of the board. The last weapon in the starter set is this, the Handheld Blaster. So Handheld Blaster, keyword has bold 1, and that's all it does. You flip over one more battle card when you are attacking. Not really spectacular. This does help maybe Prime. Prime already has bold 1, now he's going to have bold 2. When Prime attacks in his robot mode, he's going to flip over 4 cards in that initial showing. And you're hoping for either orange or white, and then building into more orange. With that said, though, the one thing that is neat about this Handheld Blaster is that you do have those 2 blue defensive pips right there. So if you draw into this while you are being attacked when you're defending, it's going to help you to not take some of that damage. So if you are building a deck that's very focused on defense and blue pips, say maybe if you only are running 2 characters or 3 characters and you definitely have to keep them protected, this is one that you might want to look into. So far, this is the only card that we've seen that does have those 2 blue defensive pips. There will almost certainly be more, but we just haven't seen them spoiled yet. We're going to take a look now at a couple of action cards and then a utility card or 2 that's going to also help us with attacking. So first up, we have Plasma Burst. Plasma Burst is an action, so as a reminder, when it's your turn, you are able to transform a character, you are able to play an action, you are able to play some type of upgrade out there, and you can do those 3 things in any order that you want to do. The neat thing about Plasma Burst is that all it does, just a static 2 damage. Nothing that they can do about it, it just happens. This is good to either A, set up a big hit, you want to surprise somebody, you have Ironhide attack, he plays this as his action, he's got a grenade launcher, all of a sudden Ironhide, who's usually not very scary, becomes really damn scary out of nowhere. This is also really good on a high attack character. So if you've got, say, 6 attack, now like you're really blasting somebody away here with this Plasma Burst. This is one that if you are running a traditional type of team that just wants to kill the opponent through just putting damage out there, this is probably going to be a 3 of. Now, with that said, the one major downside with this card is that it has no pips whatsoever. So if you flip this over while attacking, you flip it over while defending, it is not going to help you at all. Next up, Leap into Battle, which is also going to be an action. So with this one of your characters will get +3 on its attack value until the end of the turn, which is great. To get that, this is almost in some ways like a little mini version of the grenade launcher. And on top of that, it's going to also give you that blue defensive pip. This is great. This is going to also probably be something that you might want to consider putting 3 of in there if you draw that 3rd copy. It's going to help you attack. It's going to help you defend. Just a solid card all around. Plus you get that sweet action shot of 6-shot jumping into battle. Next up, let's take a look at a utility card. So this is Tandem Targeting System. This is one that you are going to find in the convention exclusive pack. Now if you are in that starter +6 card environment, unfortunately you're not going to see this card. You can't put it into your deck. But if you're just playing games with your buddies at home, this is a great card to think about including. The downside, of course, is that not everybody has been lucky enough to get those convention exclusive packs. Hopefully WotC will continue to put them out. Hopefully we see it at places like PAX Unplugged in Philly coming up at the end of November, early December. But what this does is it's a utility, which means that you can equip it to a character and you can still equip a weapon to them too. It gives you a static +1 on your attack value. It's got that orange pip up top over there as well. The cool thing about this is that when you play it onto a character, if you have another copy of it in your scrap pile, in your discard, you can put that onto another character. So you kind of buff up your team essentially. It's only +1, but that +1 is it could be the difference between killing a character or leaving it with 1 health, ready to attack you back. So again, you can't use this in that starter pack plus 6 packs environment, but still solid if you're playing at home or building a deck in general. Next up is Debilitating Crystal, which is also a utility. So here, it's going to give you a white pip, so it's going to help you when you're attacking or defending and you see it flipped out. Its ability when you have it equipped to somebody is that when the upgraded character attacks, you're going to return one of the defending character's upgrades to its owner's hand. And this can help you in a couple of different ways. If somebody has a big, scary weapon out there, you can bounce it back to their hand. Now sure, they can still put it out next time when it's their turn, but it means that they won't be able to put out an additional equipment card that they plan to put out there before you bounce it back to their hand. The other way that this can help you is, let's say that they have a defensive upgrade, which most likely is going to be some type of armor upgrade. You can bounce it back so that you have to chew through less of their defense to start putting damage out there. This card right here has been one of those, it makes the difference between 1 health left on a character or you taking them off the board. Again, this is pretty solid to add in there, especially because, again, you're going to get some white pips out there. If you get lucky, you draw into a character that wants to see those white pips, someone like Mirage. This is definitely good to have to put into your deck. Going to do something a little bit different now. So I'm going to start at the end of these type of episodes, just go over some random Transformers history, some stuff that maybe not everybody knows about. What I want to talk to you guys about today is going to be the Transformers Generation 2 comic book. So you guys can see up here, put out by Marvel Comics. The original Transformers comics were indeed published by Marvel. The original Generation 1 series ended at issue 80, and then for a while there were a couple of years between that where nothing happened until they announced the Generation 2 comic book. Now this came out in 1993. I think it kind of got shut down in 1994. And you can see here, this is not your father's Autobot. They were trying to be edgy. They were trying to be a little bit dark. This was the era of, Spawn was big in the comic book world. Cable was a huge X-Men character. Everybody had tons of guns. Everybody had, ammo strapped everywhere, bulging muscles. You guys can see that influence a little bit here. So you see, Hound is typically this fuzzy, happy kind of character. He's teleporting out of some type of wormhole, guns blazing, double fisting it, okay? Cartridges flying everywhere. Sideswipe looking like a badass, got the spiked wheels. He's got at least 3 guns on him and a sword. This is Sandstorm over here, triple changer, also loaded down with guns. Combat knife, look at this thing, all serrated, looking scary. Autobots were a little bit edgy during this time. So this was at the end of the Generation 1 comics. The Decepticons were defeated. They were kind of scattered. They were, kind of laying low. Groups of Autobots were out there kind of hunting them down. Prime was worried that they were getting a little bit too violent, a little bit too sadistic. During this time, we also see the violence in the comics just kind of exploding. Like this is here, a new villain. His name is G-Axis, just smashing Prime in the face. You can see metal bits flying out of his mouth plate. Unable to speak because his vocal processors got damaged. So, Generation 1, Megatron near the end of it just wasn't really a factor. He comes back in Generation 2. He kind of takes over the Decepticons. He reunites them. They're a force to be reckoned with again. But we have another group of, they call themselves Decepticons, but really they start to become known as the Cybertronians. And the public leader of them, the face that you saw out there, was this guy here, G-Axis. Now, the interesting thing was that these guys here, you see G-Axis kind of crushing one of his underlings here. He had some anger issues. He was so used to being under control and like calm and stoic that when Megatron show up and they start causing trouble for this new Cybertronian empire, he starts to crack and he starts to give in to those violent impulses. His Cybertronians, the interesting thing here is that they actually reproduced through this method that they call budding. So essentially, there's almost like cellular mitosis here, where one transformer would spawn out from another transformer as this gooey, generic-looking guy before somehow getting kind of like individualized into the typical transformer that we would think of. Now, the downside is that this budding process had this byproduct. It kind of released out this energy / matter type thing called the swarm. The swarm was this plague, essentially, of locust almost, that went out there and would just devour metallic life in the galaxy. Starting with non-transformer species, but then eventually attacking the Transformers. You see here Prime is being devoured by the swarm. Again, you see that edgy, early 90s vibe here. Now, eventually, Prime and Megatron separately try to confront G-Axis. It doesn't go well. So they end up teaming up together against G-Axis and his Cybertronians. They also end up teaming up against the Swarm because there's a connection between the Cybertronians and then the Swarm organism as well. So we get some really cool moments of Autobots and Decepticons fighting back to back, side by side. One of the major conceits that we see out there in Transformers comics, movies, not so much video games so far, but we see Prime and Megatron forced to team up together, and when they do, they've got that begrudging respect for each other, which is always kind of cool to see out there. The IDW comics have some really cool moments between Prime and Megatron, especially in the earlier years before the war really begins. Definitely you should check those out. And yeah, so the Generation 2 comics went only for 12 issues, and during this time, comics were a lot more popular than they currently are. The series was canceled because it did not sell enough copies, although surprisingly, those sales numbers now, they would be considered to be a mega hit if it currently, the current environment was where this series was put out. So there's your kind of quick feedback about Generation 2. If you want to get into it, it's pretty easy. Comixology is an online source to get comics. You can read it on a tablet or even your phone or a desktop or a laptop, what have you. Or if you are someone that likes to have the actual physical book in hand, you can find trade paperbacks, which are collected paperback versions of comic books. Usually there's about 6 issues in there. So if you decided to get into Generation 2, you would only have to buy 2 of them. Thank you guys very much for your time. I hope you got some good information out of this. Good luck in your practice games. Hopefully we start to see on Tabletop Simulator some more automation built into the game, so it's a little bit easier to play. And start to think about what you're going to do for those opening events. Thank you for your time. If you liked what you heard, please hit that like button, hit subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your day.